Carmilla, Chapter 12, A Petition. Then we are to lose Madame le Comte, but I hope only for a few hours, I said with a low bow. It may be that only, or it may be a few weeks. It was very unlucky his speaking to me now just as he did. Do you now know me? I assured her I did not. You shall know me, she said, but not at present. We are older and better friends than perhaps you suspect. I cannot yet declare myself. I shall in 3 weeks pass your beautiful slosh, about which I have been making inquiries. I shall then look in upon you for an hour or two, and renew a friendship which I never think of without 1,000 pleasant recollections. This moment of piece of news has reached me like a thunderbolt. I must set out now, and travel by devious route, nearly 100 miles, with all the dispatch I can possibly make. My perplexities multiply. I am only deterred by the compulsory reserve I practice as to my name, from making a very singular request of you. My poor child has not quite recovered her strength. Her horse fell with her, at the hunt which she had ridden out to witness. Her nerves have not yet recovered the shock, and our physician says that she must on no account exert herself for some time to come. We came here, in consequence, by very easy stages, hardly 6 leagues a day. I must travel now day and night, on a mission of life and death, a mission the critical and momentous nature of which I shall be able to explain to you when we meet, as I hope we shall, in a few weeks, without the necessity of any concealment. She went on to make her petition. It was in the tone of a person from whom such a request amounted to conferring, rather than seeking of a favour. This was only in manner, and as it seemed quite unconsciously, than the terms to which it was expressed. Nothing could be more depreciatory. It was simply that I would consent to take charge of her daughter during her absence. This was all things considered a strange, not to say audacious request. She, in some sort, did disarm me, by stating and admitting everything that could be urged against it, and throwing herself entirely upon my chivalry. At the same moment, by a fatality that seemed to have predetermined all that happened, my poor child came to my side, in an undertone besought me to invite her new friend, Milaka, to pay us a visit. She had just been sounding her, and thought, if her mamma would allow her, she would like it quite extremely. At another time I should have told her to wait, until at least we knew who they were. But I had not a moment to think. The 2 ladies assailed me together, and I must confess the refined and beautiful face of the young lady, about which there was something extremely engaging, as well as the elegance and fire of high birth, determined me, and quite overpowered. I submitted, and undertook too easily the care of the young lady, whom her mother called Milaka. The Countess beckoned to her daughter, who listened with grave attention while she told her, in general terms, how suddenly and peremptorily she had been summoned, and also of the arrangements she had made for her under my care, adding that I was one of her earliest and most valued friends. I made, of course, such speeches as the case seemed to call for, and found myself, on reflection, in a position which I did not half like. The gentleman in black returned, and very ceremoniously conducted the lady from the room. The demeanour of this gentleman was such as to impress me with the conviction that the Countess was a lady of very much more importance than her modest title alone might have led me to assume. Her last charge to me was that no attempt was to be made to learn more about her than I might have already guessed until her return. Our distinguished host, whose guest she was, knew her reasons. But here, she said, neither I nor my daughter could safely remain for more than a day. I removed my mask impudently for a moment, about an hour ago, and too late, I fancied you saw me. So I resolved to seek an opportunity of talking a little to you. Had I found that you had seen me, I would have thrown myself on your high sense of honor to keep my secret some weeks. As it is, I am satisfied that you did not. But if you now suspect, or on reflection should suspect who I am, I commit myself in like manner entirely to your honor. My daughter will observe the same secrecy, and I will know that you will from time to time remind her, lest she should thoughtlessly disclose it. She whispered a few words to her daughter, kissed her hurriedly, and went away, accompanied by the pale gentleman in black, and disappeared deep into the crowd. "In the next room," said Milaka, "there is a window that looks upon the hall door. I should like to see the last of Mamma, and to kiss my hand to her." We assented, of course, and accompanied her to this window. We looked out and saw a handsome old-fashioned carriage, with a troop of couriers and footmen. We saw the slim figure of the pale gentleman in black, as he held a thick velvet cloak, and placed it about her shoulders and threw the hood over her head. She nodded to him, and just touched his hand with hers. He bowed low repeatedly as the door closed, and the carriage moved. "She is gone," said Milaka with a sigh. "She is gone," I repeated to myself, for the first time in the hurried moments that had elapsed since my consent reflection upon the folly of my act. "She did not look up," said the young lady plaintively. "The Countess had taken off her mask, perhaps, and did not care to show her face," I said. "She could not know that you were in the window." She then sighed and looked in my face. She was quite beautiful that I relented. I was sorry I had for a moment repented of hospitality, and I determined to make her amends for the unavowed carelessness of my reception. The young lady, now replacing her mask, joined my ward in persuading me to return to the grounds, where the concert was soon to be renewed. We did so, and walked up and down the terrace that lies under the castle windows. Milaka became very intimate with us, and amused us with lively descriptions and stories of most of the great people whom we saw upon the terrace. I liked her more and more upon the minute. Her gossip, without being ill-natured, was extremely diverting to me, who had been so long out of the court. I thought what life she would give to our sometimes lonely evenings at home. The ball was not over until the morning sun had almost reached the horizon. It pleased the Grand Duke to dance till then. So loyal people could not go away, or even think of bed. We had just got through a crowded saloon, when my ward asked me what had become of Milaka. I thought she had been by her side, and she fancied she was by mine. The fact was, we had lost her. All of my efforts to find her were quite in vain. I feared that she had mistaken, in the confusion of her momentary separation, other people for her new friends, and had possibly pursued and lost them in the extensive grounds which were thrown open to us. Now, in its full force, I recognize a new folly in my having undertaken the charge of this young lady without knowing so much as her name, and fretted as I was by promises of the reason for imposing which I knew nothing. I could not even point my inquiries by saying that the missing young lady was the daughter of the Countess who had taken her departure a few hours before. Morning then broke. It was clear daylight before I gave up my search. It was not till near 2 o'clock the next day we heard anything of my missing charge. At about that time, a servant knocked at my niece's door, to say that he had been earnestly requested by a young lady, who appeared to be in great distress, to make out where she could find the General Baron Spielsdorf, and the young lady his daughter, in whose charge she had been left by her mother. There could be no doubt, notwithstanding the slight inaccuracy, that our young friend had turned up, and so she had. Would to heaven we had lost her. She told my poor child a story to account for having failed to recover us for so long. Very late, she said, she had to go to the housekeeper's bedroom in despair of finding us, and then fallen into a deep sleep which, long as it was, had hardly sufficed to recur her strength after the fatigues of the ball. That day, Millarca came home with us. I was only too happy, after all, to have secured so charming a companion for my dear girl.